Live from Dallas, Texas, I'm Diego Sanchez, president of HousingWire. My guest today is Adam Sartin, VP of Franchise Growth and Development at Motto Mortgage. So great to speak with you today, Adam.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate the time.
So before we dive in, what's your role at Motto Mortgage and how has your experience there shaped your perspective on the evolving needs of real estate brokers?
Sure. So I lead our strategic growth for our franchise network, and I really help real estate brokers understand and really leverage the power of ancillary services. I've been in the industry for the past 15 years, so I've seen a lot, but I really understand the industry is changing. And so we really have a franchise model that helps broker owners understand how to operate a mortgage brokerage compliantly, but really leverage that experience and, provide a greater experience, not only to their agents, but to the buyers that they're working with as well.
So at HousingWire's event, The Gathering, the title of your session was provocative. Your real estate business isn't enough anymore. What inspired that framing for that session?
Sure. I think, I really looked at it as being a wake-up call. To those owners that think that, operating in today's environment with kind of that legacy mindset really puts you at a detriment. And I really think of it as kind of the blockbuster Netflix mentality, right? Of we're at that point of really understanding, what can you do as a brokerage owner, as a leader of a real estate company to really take your company and, really make it competitive in today's environment, right? And providing a greater experience to not only the agents, but to buyers that they're working with as well. So it's really looking at how to create an ecosystem that makes you competitive in today's industry.
Yeah, and today's environment is really, it's been a challenging environment for a
Yeah.
couple of years and really a low margin environment. How do you think brokers can rethink their value proposition to, like you said, stay competitive in
Yeah.
this difficult environment?
I think you look at value propositions today and they're all really sales driven, right? And it's really focusing on the buy side or the sell side of the transaction. And I think it's much more impactful to have the focus of being service driven. And I think that's what the consumer is wanting today. They are wanting an experience. They're not wanting someone that's really just a transaction order taker. They're really wanting someone that is helping them through one of the most difficult, stressful, maybe expensive purchases in their entire life. And so those owners that really have a value proposition that looks at the end-to-end experience of working with someone that is in the process of buying or selling a home is really going to be impactful for, having something that is a relevant, competitive proposition to the marketplace.
Yeah, talk more about that end-to-end experience, kind of moving beyond the traditional real estate vertical.
So really it's looking at, that end-to-end system and what does that experience look like? When you have a buyer, you're referring them outside of your doors and you lose sight or control over what that experience looks like. So being able to have those ancillary services and keep them in-house lets you control what that experience looks like. And, at the end of the day, if you provide a great experience, you have a repeat customer. And that's really essentially the basis of the business is providing a great enough experience to want them to get to use you again when they are in that need. And so really understanding that mortgage is a part of that experience, you now get to create a seamless, environment to where you not only help them get the house under contract, but now you help them get funding for the house and control that experience at the same time.
Also, in a low margin environment, those ancillary services can be helpful in terms of increasing that margin.
Absolutely. Right. Again, you're referring that business outside of your doors. And so those are dollars that are leaving your doors and you don't get to control any of that. And so, that really impacts, like you said, that profitability margin, that slim margin, you now get to have more control over having a positive impact on that.
So, what are some of the risks of brokers maintaining the status quo and maybe not looking to offer ancillary services?
I think it's really if you're not evolving, you're losing ground. I mentioned earlier the blockbuster Netflix mentality. I think we're at that tipping point again of really having that legacy mentality of operating under the framework of what we see as traditional real estate industry to what the office of the future really looks like. And so, the cost of really operating under that same guise, is really going to impact what the future looks like for the industry, but for some of those companies that just don't understand the importance of what ancillary can do for their business.
So we have RESPA, we have other regulatory and compliance concerns if a broker is thinking about diversifying into new services. How do you manage those compliance concerns if you're thinking about moving into mortgage as a real
Sure.
estate broker?
I look at compliance as being a foundation, but it shouldn't be a barrier for anything, whether it's mortgage or title, insurance. And so, what we have done at Motto is we've really created a franchise model that has compliance as the foundation, right? Compliance is the scary word that a lot of people don't like and don't want to deal with, but we've really created a framework under our franchise model that allows someone to get into the mortgage brokerage space, operate a mortgage brokerage compliantly with the right tools and resources to have a good experience, not only for their agents, but other agents and ultimately the buyer that they're working with.
What's one big piece of advice that you consistently give to real estate brokerage leaders who are navigating this difficult and shifting housing market?
Don't wait. Right. I always say that progress beats perfection. And so really looking at, what can I learn? What new technologies, what new industries, what new streams can I learn within the industry to be able to provide a greater experience? Again, it's not just about the experience for the buyer, but think of the experience for an agent that it's at the office, right? You're now creating kind of that one-stop mentality, one-stop shop mentality for your agents. That's a magnet to recruit and retain good productive agents, but more importantly, that is the impetus for that agent to create the ecosystem for their buyer to where again you're not referring that business outside of your doors. You're able to control that experience in-house. And so, it's not only growth from the real estate side of the company, but it's also for the ancillary side of the business as well.
Yeah, let's help a little bit with that analysis paralysis that people can get into. Give that pitch for Motto Mortgage and for Motto helping a real estate
Sure.
broker add the mortgage component to their ecosystem.
Again, it really is looking at a framework to operate a mortgage brokerage compliantly. And so we really take someone that maybe hasn't been in the mortgage industry before, and we really walk them through the process of getting licensed. We walk them through the onboarding. We walk them through providing them with the framework for tools and resources and support to help them operate the brokerage compliantly. And so we really connect them with a mix of wholesalers, and we get to leverage our scale and our size and our network scale and size to be able to go to some of the wholesale lenders in the industry to be able to provide special rates and processes and pricing for the Motto network. And so we really give the right tools and resources all done under that compliance foundation to be able to help an owner capture the business that's going outside of their doors right now.
Amazing. And so as you look ahead, what excites you about the future of mortgage and really the future of real estate brokers adding additional services under their umbrella as we go into 2026?
I think the common theme is going to be consumer empowerment, right? You look at technology, you look at data, you look at AI, and all those things are kind of converging together to really empower the consumer. And I think it's really how are we going to be able to provide a greater experience, leveraging those components, leveraging technology, leveraging data, leveraging, what we want that experience to look like for the consumer. And so, those that are going to stay at the forefront are those that really realize that they have to create an ecosystem to be able to provide a better experience to their buyers and their sellers that they're working with.
Adam, this has been a really interesting conversation. I think you're right about offering that seamless end-to-end experience and that consumers are really going to expect that moving forward. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. I appreciate the time. Thank you.